Hey crafty cuties, welcome back to Paper Terrace. I have some tools out here because we're getting right into this video. We're going to turn this little golden book into a cute little journal. I was originally going to try to follow a different tutorial where you save the spine, and she had a great tutorial, but I started already and I don't know why, guys. I couldn't do that, and so that kind of intimidated me. So I'm gonna go for a little easier, or for me, it's a little bit easier version. And I think everyone, you kind of have to just see what works for you. And so I know it can be intimidating turning a whole book into a journal, but just have fun with it. These are just books at the end of the day. Use one that's a little bit more beat up if you are nervous, or just use one that you got from the dollar store. So I am going to actually start by, I'm trying to pull the spine away from the pages just slightly enough so that I can get my scissors in here, and I'm gonna cut the cover off. Okay, so I'm just gonna take my scissors now. There's almost like a sweet spot between the cover and the spine where it's really soft, and it's going to be really easy for you to cut this off. I've made a bunch of little golden book journals, and I just think for me, this is the easiest way to do it. Then you don't have to worry about the spine. You can just, you're going to kind of pull it away from the pages. I loved the idea of saving the spine because it is definitely like a classic trademark of the journals, but I just can't seem to get it. So I'm just going to pull that off like that. Then what we can do from here is you can take some kind of tweezers or use your hands, pull out the staple. And I have found that I've had a variety of little golden books. Some are really tore up and some are a little bit nicer, but sometimes these staples will be rusted and come right out, and other times they're gonna be a little bit harder. But if you have like some tweezers, like I have, these aren't tweezers, if you have some tools like this, it'll help you get the tough ones out pretty easy. So I'm gonna get the second one out here. Once you have the staples out, you can just pull. There will be two signatures, or at least most little golden books are going to have two signatures. And if you are wanting to use all of the pages in the right order, I recommend going through with a pencil and writing the page number down, because it can get a little confusing once we start to put all of the pages together. I am actually not going to be using all of the pages for these journals this time around. In the past, I've always used all of them in the same order, but this one's going to be a little bit different. So now we're going to work on the cover. We'll set the pages aside. So to put the book back together with a spine, I'm using a 1.5 inch piece of cardstock to be my spine. And I think I'm actually going to be putting two signatures into this. I just like how the pages are spread out amongst two signatures versus one. And so I have a piece of paper here that's 1.5 inches by 8 inches, which is the height of the covers. And I'm just kind of eyeballing this. And then I'm going to put everything back together with some fabric. And I have this really cute Disney fabric that I will be using. And it is probably more like 2 inches wide, and it is 16 inches tall, so it's double the height of the spine, or of the pages here. And I am going to decide the placement, which part of the fabric I like the best for the outside spine, and I think I'll probably just go in the center, and actually that makes it easy. So I'm going to glue my paper spine down to the fabric. And there are wrinkles obviously in this fabric, but once we get everything glued down, that's not going to be a problem. So I'm just going to smooth the glue out a bit. And I'm using a PVA glue that I get from Amazon. So right about here. Just trying to get that on there as even as I can. Okay, and then just turn it over. And the scrapbook paper, by the way, it's going to be covered, so I didn't really pick this print out for any other reason than it was in my scrap area. Then I'm gonna go ahead and glue down the cover. I'll start with the back cover first. Down to that fabric. I'm just gonna smooth it out again. And I'm leaving the tiniest space between that center cardstock spine and the back cover. And then I'm gonna do that same thing for the front. And I'm trying not to cover up too much of the letters that are on the cover here, but we'll smooth that out as well. I'm making a whole collection of these, so if you are subscribed to my channel or if you watch my videos, you're going to be seeing lots of little golden book content coming real soon. Okay, I'm just trying to line that up the best I can too, and then we'll flip it over here. I'm just gonna kind of, I will be gluing that down in a minute, as you saw how I wrapped that around, but I'm gonna go ahead and just make sure that this is smoothed out. I'm not worried if it's completely perfect because I might end up adding some trim over this, or maybe I kind of like the raw edges actually. I'll figure that out later. Okay. So that looks good. This glue works really well for this. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and glue the rest of the fabric going all the way around. I don't always smooth the glue out, as you just saw. I typically just do that if it's gonna be in a spot that's visible to the eyes, just in case. And since I have actually more fabric than I need, I guess I have more than 16 inches, I'm gonna cut the rest of this off because it is cute fabric and I might use these scraps for something else. And I'm cutting at a very weird angle, so excuse me there. All right, so I'll just finish gluing this around and then we can let this dry. And I do like to let it dry flat. Okay, so now it's time to go through and figure out which pages we want to keep. Again, if you're keeping all of the pages, that's wonderful. Go ahead and number them, I would suggest, but I'm gonna make these a little bit more random. I do wanna keep the front page, so I'm just gonna go through. I'm going to be using some of these pages for other projects. And I just want there to be a bit more journaling space. So let's see, I think those two. And maybe those two. So I'm really just taking a couple out. And then I'm going to go through and just pick a few other pages that I want to incorporate with these. So the cover is about 6 inches by 8, which means we're going to want to cut our pages down about 12 inches across by 8. In fact, I'm just gonna fold this one real quick just to show you, and then I will cut everything else down or make sure everything else is about that height. I'm just going to actually, to make this easy, just fold up. Sometimes I will just use one page as a template, and then I know that everything else needs to be about that size. Just gonna make sure I like how that fits in there. So we are also going to need to cut down the pages a bit. And I think this time around, I'm not there. So in the past, I would do this little fold where you fold over the spine a bit, and I would have to find a tutorial to show you if you don't know what I'm talking about. But honestly, I think I'm just gonna cut both sides and then just keep these very simply folded in half. I think that seems like a better idea this time around. So I will be back when everything is cut down to size and show you what pages I have. Okay, let me show you the pages that I chose, and then I think I'm gonna add some lace to the edges. But here is the first signature. I added a few fun little envelopes, and I am going to keep these rather blank. I just find that it's easier to work in more of a blank journal. I love decorating journals for other people, but I'm actually going to keep this one. And then I'm making a whole collection of these for my Patreon members and for my website. And I haven't decided on what I will be doing for decoration for those. And then this is the second signature. I have just a variety of sizes as well. I do have one little sewn kind of pocket there. This already had lace on it. It's a dyed green paper. And then the center here has a nice pocket. So I'm gonna go over to my lace wall and just pick a few out so that I can sew those on the edges before we bind these into the journal. Okay, I'm just looking through, and I know that I am obsessed with the daisy, so I will pick some daisy lace or trim. I think I'm gonna take some of this one. This leaf trim might be fun as well. And then actually maybe some florals. So I'll go ahead and just trim these over here, and I'll meet you back at the table. I'm not gonna overdo it, but I have some trims here, and I'm gonna go ahead and sew those on. I also won't be forgetting to show you what kind of closure I'm putting on this journal. So I'll sew these on and... Okay, so I have my signatures ready. I'm gonna set those aside, finish some of the things with the cover. One, I think I'm going to put a eyelet in the center here, just in case I want to add any kind of charm later. Yeah, I'm not decided on that right now, but if it's there, it'll look cute, and if we decide to use it, then that's fine too. So I'm gonna use my crocodile to put a little hole in the center. I have to bring that closer to my face. Okay, I have this flower eyelet, and I'm gonna go ahead and set it. Okay, there's that. And then for the closure, it's going to be a very simple closure, and I am going to add 2 eyelets, one on the front cover and one on the back. I'm just going to kind of pick a spot here. And I'm just going to use some white standard eyelets. Set that. And then I'm gonna put one on the back as well. I just have some crinkled seam binding, and I'm just gonna fold that in half and then put it through the eyelet here. Take that loop and pull the ends through. And I just chose white for this one. And I'm not gonna do anything else to the cover, at least now. I feel like these type of journal covers are totally fine on their own, just as they are. but obviously you can still play around if you want, add lace, add buttons, embellish them, but especially this one, I just love it. So now we can get into binding. I have the 2 signatures. Okay, so I have a little template that I will be using for my binding template, and this is just about the same size as the spine here. So when we close the book, your template should fit inside of your spine. I'm gonna write a T for the top. I'm doing a very simple 3-hole pamphlet stitch, and I folded it in half lengthwise and then this way, just to kind of help guide and, you know, help me keep everything as even as I can without having to use a ruler. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and I will be marking the dots where I'm going to be binding the holes into the spine, and then I'm putting a little X in the center. That's what I will use as my template for the actual signature. So I'm going to just double check and make sure this is lined up here like that. I will take my awl and I'm just going to, oh, the sun just went down and I don't know if you'll be able to tell on camera. I'm going to punch these holes, and I'm going to do it at the edge of my desk, but just so you know, I'm punching a hole on all 6 holes there, just like you see there. And then I will take that same template, put it in the center of my signatures, making sure the top's at the top, and then I'm going to punch the holes in the very center. Again, I'm taking it to the edge of my table so that the awl can have kind of a free place to fall, and I find that it's just the easiest way to punch those holes. Feel free to take some paper clips to hold your signatures together when you do that. Go ahead and use whatever you want to sew your signatures in. I'm using a waxed linen thread. I have it on a needle. And then I'm gonna sew in the last signature first, starting in the middle hole. And just, it should be easy to go through those holes if you pre-punched them. And then I have a dark fabric here, so it's a little hard to see, but just go ahead and line that up with the holes. So we'll come out, we'll go up to the top hole and then line that up with the top hole in your signature. And since I am at kind of a weird angle, it's a little harder for me to see, but just take your time to make sure that needle goes through all of the papers. And if you have your signatures held together with paper clips, then that should be very easy. Then just go ahead and go down to the bottom hole. And out the bottom hole of your signature. Whoops, I lost it there. And then just back in through the center hole. Go ahead and tie off your ends, trim whatever you need, and then just follow that same thing for the second signature, or third if you're doing 3. And I will show you what the final journal looks like in a moment. Here is the final little golden book journal. And honestly, I just feel like this method comes together so quickly, so nicely. And you can still, there's still room for you to decorate more if you want, change things up. And yeah, it's just so simple. So I'll do a little flip through for you. I can't wait to decorate and fill this one up. I think it has a nice variety of papers. This is a little flap from a CD envelope, but I kept it on here because I thought it might be fun to like attach something else on there. Some lined paper for journaling if I want, or I'll probably honestly cover a lot of the pages. blank journals are just a little bit easier for me to work in personally, but obviously we all have different preferences. Here's the second signature. And then dividing these pages up into 2 signatures just makes everything not get too chunky. It disperses everything very well, I think. And then I just kept the scrapbook papers pretty neutral. There we go. And I definitely might add some decorations to the inside covers, but for now, this is perfect, and that's what the spine looks like. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you soon. Leave any questions that you have down below. Bye, guys.